Ready, we're back in the studio. I hope you enjoyed our conversation last week. I had a great time sitting down with Kimberly. She's my real estate agent, and we chatted all about countertops and the role they play when it comes to buying and selling our homes. If you missed it, I'll throw a link up in the top corner. However, this week, we're back at it. We're diving into another countertop type, and that is porcelain countertops. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. If you're new around here or you just happen to stumble upon us, welcome. If you enjoy all things kitchen design, you have found your community. As I mentioned earlier, it is time for our foray into porcelain countertops. And chances are you have porcelain somewhere in your home, whether it's in tiles, a sink, maybe even a doll. Ugh, creepy. While it may not be everybody's first thought for kitchen countertops, porcelain's popularity is on the rise. So without further ado, let's dive in and discuss what are porcelain countertops and what are they made out of? Porcelain is a vitrified pottery material made from clay, a specific kind of clay called white china clay. This clay contains a high percentage of the mineral kaolinite, along with silica, feldspar, and a few other minerals. That powdered mix of minerals is heated to about 1400 degrees Celsius, allowing the clay to vitrify into a dense, highly durable material that retains a lot of its shape due to the kaolinite. This process also imparts several great attributes to the countertop or that slab of porcelain once it is cured, but we'll get into those a little bit later on. Finally, the slabs are finished with a pigmented glaze. This imparts all of the different patterns and colors that are seen on the final slab. That slab is then fired a second time to harden and adhere the glaze completely. Should also mention that you can get porcelain slabs in both a matte or high gloss finish, with or without patterns. In general though, both of these finishes still tend to go through the glazing process. In the end, you're left with a slab that has a rather contemporary appeal, a beautiful aesthetic that often mimics that of many natural stones, including marble. But enough with that, let's dive into those beneficial attributes. Porcelain countertops are nearly impervious. Now, you'll always find someone out there who has had a staining problem with pretty much every option that is available, but porcelain comes pretty damn close to being stain resistant. Because it is non-porous, liquids don't absorb, and any dried substances tend to just sit on the surface and are easily wiped off. Better yet, porcelain is resistant to most harsh chemicals and does resist etching. So you don't need to worry about those acidic foods or drinks we often have in our kitchen. You don't have to baby this surface like you would marble. These countertops are scratch resistant. They'll hang in there with the likes of quartz, quartzite, granite, and ultra compact surfaces without much worry with everyday wear and tear. Now, I did find a few notes out there of people having trouble with ceramic knives leaving scratch marks on their porcelain countertops, but how many of us are cutting directly on our countertop anyways? Porcelain is heat resistant. Heck, they're manufactured at 1400 degrees Celsius without any added resins. They better be able to take a little bit of dang heat. But again, just use a trivet. Protect your investment that you have spent so much money on. Porcelain countertops are UV resistant. That just adds another option if you're searching for a surface for that outdoor kitchen. And finally, these slabs come in a huge range of colors, textures, patterns. If you can think of it, it is probably made.
There's too many choices! Too many goddamn choices!
Alright, it's time for the downer portion of these videos, and that is diving into the downsides of these countertops. And with porcelain, the most obvious one is its beauty runs only skin deep. As I briefly alluded to earlier, the pattern and colors, that design is essentially printed on the porcelain surface during the glazing step. That means if you nick or chip your slab anywhere where there is a design, you're going to reveal the basal color of the interior slab itself, which often doesn't match that printed surface. Additionally, the pattern will not be visible if you opt for round or beveled edges on your countertop, but we'll talk about that more in a second. Moving on to hardness, and yes, it has found its way onto this half of the list as well. Now, have you ever dropped a heavy object or a tool on a porcelain sink or bathtub, watching it fall and almost chip in slow motion? Well, it can be similar with porcelain countertops, and this is largely attributed to the hardness of the surface. Which brings me to repair. If you do find yourself in that unfortunate situation that I just described, and you have chipped your countertop, well, that chip is often quite jagged and sharp in nature. And in order to repair it, you often need to bring in professional help in order to restore that surface completely. That brings me to edge options for these countertops. As I mentioned above, Rounded or beveled edges would reveal the basal color of the interior slab, and that's largely why there's limited edge options available when it comes to porcelain countertops. Most people opt for square or mitered edges, which is basically just thick square. Finally, porcelain slabs can be fragile during the fabrication and installation process. These slabs are quite a bit thinner than, say, that of quartz or natural stone, and if they are going to crack, it's going to likely happen at this stage. Porcelain is also relatively difficult to cut compared to some of the other options available. It often requires special tools and considerable skill in order to get clean cuts with chip-free seams. This is also why it can be difficult to find highly qualified installers and fabricators near you. And it really starts to narrow down your choices of selection when looking for different installers in your area, much like it did with decked-in countertops. I've also heard and read a bunch about the cost of porcelain as well as its impact on resale of our homes. Now, I don't want to spend a bunch of time here except to say that the cost of porcelain can vary widely, so shop around if that option is available to you. Now, when it comes to our home's resale, if anything Kimberly said last week that sort of stuck home with me, it's that most buyers aren't going to recognize many of these specialty countertop options. They pretty well recognize granite and quartz and sometimes will even confuse those two. So, not to say that it's going to impact the value of your home decreasing or increasing, it's likely that just most people won't know what it is. Moving on to maintenance, and just like decked in or quartz, this is going to be a relatively quick discussion. Simply wipe your countertops down with some warm water and a soft cloth. Now, if you do get a little bit of surface staining, something that doesn't want to come out with just water or say even a little bit of soap, you can move on to a soft scrub, something like Barkeeper's Friend, which I've talked about before. I love the product, not sponsored in any whatsoever, but it does wonders at getting out some of those very, very light surface stains. Also briefly mention that some slabs will require sealing. Generally, this is not the case because porcelain slabs go through a glazing step in the manufacturing process, giving them that impervious final seal. However, some manufacturers do not include that step, or you may purchase an unglazed slab. In that case, you do want to seal them, so speak with your fabricator, speak with your installer, and see what suggestions they have for you when it comes to sealing or not sealing your porcelain slabs. Moving along to environmental impact, and this is a place where porcelain really shines. The main ingredient of porcelain slabs is china clay, which is a naturally occurring naturally occurring, not really a mineral. Substance? Clay is made up of minerals. It's naturally occurring and rather abundant. In addition, it remains eco-friendly after manufacturing because the process only requires kiln heating and pressing. There are no harmful resins or toxic substances in these slabs, so when it does hit the end of its life cycle, you can throw it out, dispose of it without worrying about the environment. Better yet, most porcelain products can actually be recycled. Now, before we wrap this video up, I want to take a minute and compare porcelain and decked-in countertops. I mentioned I would do this a few weeks ago, so here it is. Although similar, there are a few key differences. In fact, decked-in uses many of the same raw materials that are used to make porcelain countertops. The difference being is decked-in also includes a few other minerals, those that are used to make quartz countertops. The second major difference is how the slabs are created, or rather heated. Decked-in undergoes a process known as sintering, where the materials are heated and compressed to the utmost levels. So that process, along with the mineral makeup, gives decked-in an increased resistance and durability when compared to porcelain countertops. So is porcelain right for you? It might be. For me, as of right now, I don't think it would make the shortlist in our next kitchen renovation. It has some great features, no doubt, but it comes with quite a few downsides, and many of those downsides can be mitigated by going with other surface options. Plus, the lack of quality installers around me and just the lack of selection available always makes me a bit queasy. Well, that wraps up another week in our countertop series here at Homestud Studios. Hopefully you found a bit of useful information out of this week's video. Maybe you're one step closer to choosing your next kitchen countertop material. As always, thanks a ton for watching. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button so you can join our community and see more videos just like these. You don't want to miss them. Many of you aren't subscribed. You're watching, you're not subscribed. Join now. Thanks a ton for watching, guys. We'll see you next week.